Hi, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, and we are currently live in the breakout room. So, welcome, and we love being here for you with quality and value to inspire and to transform. Remember, we are on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and iTunes. Today, as usual, we have a special guest to share with you for your development and growth and to live your better informed life. So, grab a cup, pull up a seat, and stay tuned for the introduction. Right here, now, live in the breakout room. It's the place for health, happiness, and prosperity. Stay tuned. Our next guest in the breakout room is considered as a real estate guru. He is Joe Rockey, the founder of Rockey Real Capital. And he will show you how to rent to own your investment property. He says, I have created a series of real estate business beginning in 2011 in this specific industry. 97% of my competition fails in the first year. Over a decade later, we still are going strong with no end in sight. He's also the host and founder of the podcast entitled Father and Joe. So let's welcome live in the breakout room this real estate genius, the man, Joe Rockey.
Well, thank you for having me. That was beautiful.
I'm glad that you like it. Thank you so very much for appreciating what we do here at Andy's Personal Development in the breakout room. Thank you for coming on, Joe. How are you this afternoon?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yes, great.
Wonderful. That's good to hear. That's a nice way to start off. And we thank you again for coming on the show to share your life and your expertise with us.
Mm-hmm.
Really appreciate it. We hope it's going to add some value to our viewers. So, Joe, tell us what it is about your business and your style of success that you have achieved over the years that makes you so unusual, like one of a kind in the real estate world.
Yeah, so what we do here is unique in the sense of how we create the relationship between our landlords and our tenants.
Right.
Most landlords enter into a potential interaction with a tenant with the assumption that the tenant is going to fail and the tenant is going to break my house and that everything is going to go bad. And we first off don't start that way. We start with the assumption that everything is going to work out. And because we are targeting people specifically that want to own a house, but for whatever reason in their life, normally it's a poor credit score, they can't own a property they can't own it because they can't get the mortgage. So what we've done is we've built a system where they're able to increase their credit while being able to live in it at the same time. Yeah. And I don't micromanage them. In fact, I tell all of my tenants when we begin that, yes, we are signing a lease and technically I am a landlord, you are a tenant. But what this relationship really is, what it's going to be, is it is a buyer-seller relationship.
Okay.
When you have your house, you fully own it, this house, and a pipe breaks, you're not going to call up the bank and say, come here and fix it. You're going to figure it out yourself. Right. Likewise, you're going to be the one who cuts the grass, shovels the snow in the winter, and all that fun stuff. So we have changed the dynamic. Now, people would go, well, as a tenant, why would I ever want to be in a property where I have to do everything? That's part of the point of being a tenant. And my answer to that is, you're not the kind of tenant I'm looking for. There's very smaller percentage of tenants out there that want this. They really want to be homeowners, but they can't.
Right.
And that's what we target. And we're unique in that that's not the majority of the tenant pool. And likewise, not the majority of landlords do it the way I do.
Okay, great.
So you give these people a sense of ownership in
Hmm.
terms of that level of commitment for maintenance for the property that they're actually paying for. I understand the concept and it's a pretty good one. So, Joe, tell us, have you always wanted to be involved in real estate, or is it something that happened in your life and the dynamics changed and you decided, yeah, this is it for me? What it is that got you involved in real estate in the first place?
Well, definitely number two. What I wanted was I wanted to have residual income. That's what I
Okay,
knew I wanted. So when
okay,
I came out of college, I ended up working in a company that sold life insurance and annuities.
uh huh,
Under one of the promises was that I would get residuals for the rest of my life on what I sold when I was younger.
mm-hmm.
And in theory, that sounds great. Until I
Right,
sat down and did the math that the
uh-huh.
residual payout rate was 0.1%. Said
Wow,
another way, I would have to work 1,000 years to get
mm,
1 year's income. And
right,
that math, once it figured it out, dawned on me that it wouldn't work. So then it
okay,
became, let's go find something where we can do this.
mm-hmm.
And 11 years ago, there was virtually no subscription based revenue products. Like
Okay,
now, you're on SteamYard, which is the engine I use. You can pay them on a monthly basis. Your phone is on a monthly basis.
mm-hmm.
Um, and you can build a revenue stream where you get paid monthly.
Okay,
Then it really didn't exist like that. Everything was just an upfront payment. You get your service now and you pay it a day, except for utilities
mm-hmm.
and property.
Right,
So landlording kind of became the default answer for that because I can get my residual income in effect,
mm-hmm.
and there wasn't a whole lot of other options to do it. Um, Given that statement I just said there, if I was starting today, I'm not totally sure it would still be the same one,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
knowing where I'm at now, I'm very glad that I chose this. There's obviously a lot of up and downs along the way,
yeah.
but I'm very glad with how it all worked out and how we got into where we're at.
Great, thanks for sharing. What it is that actually brought you to the place where Rocky Real Capital became something tangible and productive?
Probably on the second flip. So the first property I bought, we flipped, and I did it horribly wrong. It was not fun.
Oh,
Economically, the
okay.
relationships were broken. It was just all bad. It was a
Hmm.
bad product. It wasn't good. And I'd already started the second flip before I completed the first one.
Okay.
So had I not done that, I'm not sure I ever would have done the second one.
Right. Right.
But I was already in, I was already committed, and there was a lot of my money already out the door, and we better get some of this back.
Hmm.
And that was really how we got into it. It became tangible was when that first one failed and there was no other option. And there is no other option. It
Yeah. Yeah.
has to work.
Right.
And you don't get much more real than that. At that time, I knew what Keller, every single utilities bill meant, whether it
Mhm.
meant I had 10 days to pay it off, whether it was just the 30-day notice or whatever. I was
Yeah.
jumping around like crazy, just trying to survive just one more day
Right.
until this house would sell and everything would become good again.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Joe. I hear in your voice a commitment to resilience and a desire to succeed, and that's a very good spirit to have. In your business, Joe, as you continue to build and develop, what are some of the challenges that you face dealing with your tenants on a daily basis?
Well, thankfully, I've outsourced all that onto them.
Okay.
The bigger challenge was figuring out how to thread the needle of the law. It took 5 years
Hmm.
to figure that out to be able to build this. So
Right.
legally, I could put everything on the tenants. I can
Hmm.
do it in a way where they also have a buy-in because they put a pretty big non-refundable payment down, which
Okay.
is much more than your standard 1 month rent. It's
Hmm.
almost as much as a year's worth of rent, but it
Okay.
also goes towards them purchasing the house.
Yeah.
So if they don't follow up on this purchase, they're out. And that's just the
Mm.
way it is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of buy-in from them. And the hardest part is selecting the right person to be
Okay.
there. But once I
Okay.
found them, I'm out of their life. You guys run this as you're supposed to. It's your house. You want to make
Right.
it Barbie pink? Do it.
Go
You
ahead.
want to change the garage into a workshop?
Yeah.
Do it.
Go ahead.
I'm not here to interfere with you.
Okay. Great. And with regards to the competition in your area, in
Mhm.
terms of other rival companies and what they may be doing, how do you add up or stand beside them in regards to the industry as a whole?
So the way that the landlording world just kind of works, and really the real estate industry in general, is unless you're going out and trying to build acre-wide developments with just
Yeah.
massive swaths of land, there's
Hmm.
not really a whole lot of ton of direct competition from my company to another. It's not like Chevy and Ford.
Right.
It's more like there's at any given point, 10 to 50,000 houses on the market, and we just have some of them.
Hmm.
So it's not a direct competition. In that regard, I mean, it is, but it isn't, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's more fighting the market than an individual within it.
Okay. Okay. Great. I understand. Thanks for sharing, Joe. With regards to going forward in terms of expansion, development, growth, what are the plans that you have for your company or business? What is the vision that you see for the future?
So that vision really kind of began at the very beginning when Governor Wolf said I was unessential.
Hmm.
At the beginning of COVID, and basically Pennsylvania was the one of the worst states in terms of getting shut down.
Okay.
So tenants realized for basically 2 years that they didn't have to pay and they couldn't get evicted. So a lot of them just stopped paying.
Yeah.
And now we're on the other side of it where some of the evictions are finally going through, and it's
Yeah.
going very slowly,
Okay.
which is not good. But what's eventually going to happen is all of the basic rules of economics are going to come into place.
Hmm.
You're going to a lot of landlords that are not physically capable of repairing their houses because they don't have the money to do
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
or they just don't want to do it anymore because they don't want to get burnt by the government telling them that they aren't essential, and they just don't want to play this game anymore. So
Okay.
long story short, demand is going to plummet, and the amount of these broken houses in rental areas, so not the greatest areas to begin with in the first place, are just going to there's going to be so much supply, no demand, and the prices are going to devalue themselves. And it's going to start in all of the bad areas of any metropolitan area. Worse, depending upon how your state was in shutting down COVID. So our plan basically is we're going to wait till it gets really, really bad and buy a whole bunch of houses on the cheap. And then that's how we're going to grow it on the other side of this recession, of rebuilding properties when there's not a whole lot of people who want to buy them, and we're just sitting and waiting. And that's really the deck that Governor Wolf is making me play.
And you were talking about the vision.
Yeah. So like I said, the vision really is coming out from the fact that we were told that we were unessential. We really weren't able to work, and there's going to be a lot of properties out there that are going to be on the very discounted price because of basic supply and demand of economics. Many landlords are just not going to have enough money to repair their properties, let alone the desire to walk into another broken house. So basic supply and demand, no one's going to want to buy them. There's going to be a lot of it for sale.
Yeah.
It's going to get really cheap. And we're just going to keep waiting and waiting and waiting until it gets really, really cheap. And then that's when we're going to expand by buying a vast amount of houses on pennies on the dollar. And that's the plan.
Wow. We are kind of coming out of the COVID-19 era, if I can use that term.
Mm-hmm.
And but you stated that almost 97% of the competition fails
Mm-hmm.
in the first year.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
know that we are facing quite tough economic times. But what is the main contributing factor to that high level of failure in the industry?
Well, people think it's easy and it's not, I guess, is the first starting point in black and white. It's on paper, it's not complicated. You buy a property, you fix it up, you sell it for more.
Hmm.
And when you simplify it like that, it sounds really easy. But the reality is that the vast majority of us have no idea what can actually happen wrong with a property. And experience is really the best teacher for that.
Hmm.
Even less people have any idea of what it is to hire a crew and be in charge of them,
Yeah.
and how to manage people that often don't act like adults. Most people have no idea how to handle that. And not to mention the finance element that goes into funding one of these types of properties is incredibly difficult to play with. I mean, you're
Right.
normally talking somewhere between 15 and 25% interest.
Yeah.
That's essentially on a credit card.
Okay.
So it's very challenging. It's something that there's a lot of ways it can go wrong, and most people have no idea most of these ways. And having done enough of them, I know I can tell pretty much immediately. And I really make the money by picking the right house because
Okay.
I've seen so many things that can go wrong, and I know what they are, and
Mhm.
I avoid them.
All right. Great. Thanks for sharing. Tell us a little bit about the podcast. It has an unusual name. How did you name it?
So it's Father and Joe, and he's Father Boniface Hicks. He's a Roman Catholic priest, so
Okay.
they are titled Father, and
Right.
that's what really started it.
Okay, great. And how is it going so far? Is it creating an impact? Are you having a good following? Stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So Father and Joe was created originally in 2017, and
Mm,
at that time, the world was really kind of dividing into CNN people or Fox people because that's when Trump got elected, and
okay.
there was a notion that you shouldn't talk to the other side. Make the other side a cartoon so you don't have to listen to them.
Hmm.
And anytime that has ever happened in human history, regardless of what country it's happened in,
Yeah.
bad things have resulted. And we
Oh,
wanted to do something to try to slow it down. So
okay.
you can make the argument from a national perspective, have we really done anything? And no, because it's still CNN and Fox people. But we
Hmm.
do know that we are making a difference in the lives of the individuals that do watch us, as they're able to take something personal to them and
Hmm.
use it to have better relationships within their own lives,
Yeah,
which then extend everyone around them.
absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Joe, and congrats to you guys. Uh, wow, Boniface Hicks. That's the
Hmm.
priest, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Wonderful. Well done. Okay, I just have one more question before we go on a short ad break. In
Yeah.
terms of the lessons that you've learned along the way, particularly in the last 11 years, what advice would you give for someone who's trying to get into your industry right now?
So I would say don't try to take everything on yourself. Find
Hmm.
someone who knows a portion of it, and
Hmm.
preferably the portion you don't want to do, and
Uh-huh.
partner up with them.
Okay.
It's much better to be a co-owner in a successful entity than a
Right.
100% owner in a failing entity.
Yeah.
So the
Makes
quick
sense.
and short would be find someone who likes doing the things you don't want to do and
Hmm.
become friends.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing, Joe. We've been listening to Joe Rockey live in the breakout room on Andy's personal development, talking about his life and his experiences in the real estate industry, the founder of Rockey Real Capital. And we will be going for a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, folks.
FindRadioGuest.com, the place to click to find guests to interview for free. And if you're a radio show booker, podcaster, talk show host, or television producer, then this is the place to get podcasts and radio interviews or promote your books and products as a guest expert sponsor. FindRadioGuest.com. Check it out. Hi, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development. Hi, people. This is a special invitation for you to join our community. Yes, we're inviting you to join our community for 2022. What's in store? Well, what we want is your feedback on our content and our guests, but more so on what you need to be inspired and transformed from your current condition to one of happiness, health, and prosperity. So drop us a line and reach out. Help us to better help you achieve your goals. So, people, inbox me at www.facebook.com/mddreamer/. That's www.facebook.com/mddreamer/. Or send me an email at lovebitsa@gmail.com. That's lovebitsa@gmail.com. We love hearing from you as we build our partnership in growth and development, and we look forward to your communicating. Help us to help you to live a better life in personal growth and development from Andy's Personal Development. We love you. We look forward to hearing from you. See you soon. Bye for now.
So we are live back in the breakout room with Joe Rockey, the real estate man. And as we continue with the conversation, Joe, when you look at the amount of resources and the time that you are committing to your business, how much of it cuts into your personal life in terms of the balance between work, personal life, social life? How much is it that the business demands of you or takes away from your family life and time? Or have you got it so balanced that everything is just a-okay?
Well, now it is. At the beginning, it wasn't at all. I mean, I'm really glad that I wasn't married when I started this. I
Okay.
don't think it would have been able to work really because, A, the stress of having the thing constantly balancing from the economic side of it, from being really big checks to
Yeah.
we're now wondering if the bank account's going to be able to stretch all the way to the end of the month.
Mm.
So I was able to handle that by myself because I could see the vision of what I was building and
Okay.
what it was going to be. But in terms of the physical time element, it is now pretty balanced. Where at least in the entering into COVID, it was very balanced. Once I got told I was unessential, I had
Yeah.
all the time in the world, which has definitely slowed down the growth of the company. But it got
Yeah.
to a high enough level where it's able to survive and maintain.
All right. Great. Wonderful. With regards to a mentor in your life, everyone has this person that they go to, the still voice that they confide in when they need information, advice, or just another opinion to help you make an important decision. Do you have that individual in your life? And if so, who's that person?
Yeah, people sometimes think this is made up or not, but really it comes in prayer. Like when you're just sitting around and you're in a really quiet state and you just ask the question, how am I going to figure out a way to get through this?
Yes.
And it just comes. I don't know how to describe it, but to me that's what prayer is,
Okay.
and that's the answer.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Are you planning to do a book or some sort of publication in the future, Joe?
I have a lot of different book ideas going on out there, some of which are nonfiction, some of which are pertaining to leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at this point, I have started writing about 2 chapters of each of them, but
Ah,
none of them have actually progressed to that because I do have this problem of seeing something new and wanting to build it immediately.
mhm.
And the book is the one that constantly gets put on the back burner as I
Okay.
go and create
Okay.
some new project in the meantime.
Yeah. All right. But the important thing is, Joe, you started. So
Mhm.
at some point in time, it's going to get done. You just have to discipline yourself to get it, dedicate the time and the resources to it. But I believe you can do it.
Yeah, it
You,
also has to rank as one of the 3 most important priorities that I'm doing right now. I have a
okay.
lot of things that I've started for better or worse.
Hey, Joe, what are some of the life lessons that you have learned along the way? Stuff that you would tell your young child or a young adult or someone in your company that you may want to mentor at some point in time. Life skills advice that you would have learned. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it really comes down to whether you put churchy words to them or not. You have to
Mhm.
live a life that's accountable and virtuous. And the four that I focus on people with is prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. So
Right.
what that means without the church words is prudence is have your mind open to learn new things
Hmm.
and to not just accept something that you think is wrong and to critically analyze, is what I'm being told the truth?
Yeah.
And then if so, what can I do about it? And
Okay.
fortitude is the what can I do about it? Being
Mhm.
out to challenge whatever lie you're getting attacked with. Justice is treating people fairly at the end of the day. Am I hiring this person because they're the best for the job or because of some arbitrary role or arbitrary feature about them that doesn't really impact the job? So only hire people that are the best for what you need the job to be. And temperance to me is the biggest one in society that we're
Mhm.
lacking in, but the most
Okay.
important one. Temperance is where humility comes from.
Right.
And it's controlling yourself and being willing to sacrifice today for the betterment of tomorrow. And really that's what the most important thing of all parents is, that's how maturity is. Can I deny something today to make tomorrow better? And those 4 things are really, if you can instill those in your life, the rest of your life will get better by default, and it's will happen pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah, great. Wonderful. Inspirational, Joe. Thanks for sharing. Great stuff. In terms of retrospect and looking back at your life,
Mhm.
the times, the experiences, if you had the opportunity to change anything, would you do so, or would you just have accepted it all over again?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, the bubble effect. If you were to change one thing, how would have it ended up? I mean, obviously, there's a couple of tenants that I had that I wish I wouldn't have selected them to be my tenants.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of unnecessary things there. I think that I would have been overall more willing to judge people despite everything in society tells me not to.
Yeah.
Because in the majority of my failures in relationships, I could tell there was something off in the very beginning, but I wasn't
Okay.
willing to judge it for what it was. And I
Right.
don't mean judge on arbitrary reasons,
Hmm.
but know
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
no, there's just not going to work.
Hmm.
And I think that that's really the skill that I've learned along the way that has made things better now than what they were then. Being able
Okay.
to have better relationships, A, by selecting who we're having the relationships with,
Hmm.
and B, being critical upon myself about what did I do wrong that made this situation go sideways. What can I do better next time? And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just we started with the wrong partner, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's something I did, and that's just part of self-analyzing and moving forward.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing, Joe. In terms of community work, community development, are you involved with any NGOs or even government in terms of colleges, programs, and stuff, and teaching people about business and growth and development and real estate leadership, all of that? Any community development work at all?
So in terms of the government, normally they're the problem that make things worse.
Wow.
So trying to get with them doesn't really help. The way that we're helping the community around us is
Hmm.
that most of my properties are in these neighborhoods that could either be rental areas or
Hmm.
they can be home ownership areas 5
Okay.
years from now. And what I'm doing is by putting people there that are going to be homeowners is we're tipping the scales to making the neighborhood better, because it
Hmm.
is proven that areas that have more home ownership and less rentals have people who care more about their properties, care
Hmm.
more about themselves. So it's a nicer place for walking around. As a
Okay.
result, crime tends to be less. And, also all the other happy things you like. Students
Mm.
are better in school, grades are higher, all that good stuff. And if I can just help the guy who's 3 houses down
Yeah.
because I made this house nice, opposed to being somewhere where we have to avoid, then that is a positive influence.
Great. Wonderful. What is your idea, Joe, of the ideal employee? The kind of individual that you'd want in your business with that kind of mindset or attitude that you know you could rely on and help you to continue to develop and grow based on the policies and the levels of success you have achieved. What's the ideal kind of employee for you?
So you kind of said the word there in the middle, which is I have to be able
Hmm.
to rely on you. So I have to be
Yeah.
able to trust you to do what you say you're going to do.
Uh-huh.
And as far as the individual skill sets that you
Mhm.
may possess or may not, that's kind of irrelevant. It's at the
Okay.
end of the day, can I trust you and us to build a relationship? Now, that
Uh-huh.
doesn't mean I'm going to trust you with my entire company the first time we meet. We're going to have to prove some stuff along the way. But
Hmm.
do I believe at the end of the day, I can trust you? I can see us still having a positive relationship a year from now? And if
Hmm.
the answer is yes, then we explore that relationship. And as time builds it truer and truer, then we give more and more responsibilities. And that's how I do it. And it seems to work out fairly well.
Right. So currently, are you having any challenges in-house with your employees? And if so, how do you address them?
Well, yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge, and I am not unique, and this is not a unique issue to real estate, but this is certainly something that's in Pennsylvania,
Right.
and probably nationally, is that people just got paid so much money not to work. The
Hmm.
amount of money that I would have to pay them to compete with unemployment, they're not capable of producing enough to make that worth it. So
Right.
I am caught in a spot
Hmm.
where I need to have someone, but they're not going to be worth what I need to pay them.
Yeah.
So it's a problem
Hmm.
because either I'm going to cut that portion of my business out, possibly forever,
Yeah.
Or I'm going to lose money on it, which will just make me cut that part of my business out down the road.
Okay.
So I'm at a crossroads with neither answer being happy. And what I'm doing is I'm just hoping that the government will realize paying people not to work in this exorbitant way is a bad idea.
Yeah.
And this isn't just my opinion.
Yeah.
It's proven by the fact that there's twice as many jobs as people wanting to get a job. So
Mhm.
that's the key part of the unemployment figure. It's not that you don't have a job, it's that you want to get a job. And that
Right.
desire has been killed because you can be paid to do nothing. And, you know, that's not okay. That you're using my tax money to make it harder for me to hire someone. Like, I have a
Right.
very big problem with that.
Right. Great. So let's say you were the one expert that people would need to listen to with regards to the industry, and you have just under 8 billion people, which is roughly the world population at this time. And there's one thing you need to say to them about preserving and understanding the power of real estate. You said that you can help people with a rent to own property. What are some of the things that are vital for people to understand that they can survive with that kind of policy if they follow the advice that you're going to give to them?
So the first thing that to realize is that all of us inherently are different. And yes, that's obvious.
Yeah.
But not all of us are meant to be homeowners,
Hmm.
nor are all of us meant to be tenants.
Wow.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to have someone take care of your stuff, and if it breaks, you have someone else fixing it, that's okay. But it does
Yeah.
mean you're probably going to be paying more in rent in almost every circumstances than if you own the house. But that's
Hmm.
an economic decision you're making based upon your personal desires of upkeep. And
Right.
that's okay. So trying to force everyone into home ownership or make it so exorbitant that no one can be in home ownership is wrong.
Right.
The end of the day answer is it needs to be a balance because people have different desires of what they
Mm.
want in their life
Yeah.
in the particular aspect of
Yeah.
real estate.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks for sharing, Joe. From a personal point of view, in terms of what you want to achieve for yourself, forget the business aside. Although sometimes people could use business as the means to an end, but in terms of your personal development, your personal growth, in terms of what you want to accomplish for yourself, have you been able to do that in addition to your responsibility towards the business?
Yes. Long
Okay.
story short, yes.
Yeah, and what are some of the things that you have accomplished for yourself that you can share as value with people?
Well, one of the big ones is the podcast, Father and Joe. I
Okay.
wanted to be able to figure out a way how to reach a large amount of people
Hmm.
and be able to give them knowledge that will help them in their day life today and also help them in the expanded world of the rest of the relationships within their
Okay.
lives.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thanks for sharing, Joe. I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot here a little bit. It's a trivia. It's either or.
Hmm.
Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. So it's a quick questionnaire, and it has two answers. So you choose one.
Hmm.
If you had to choose, would it be ham and cheese or peanut butter and jelly?
Oh, definitely peanut butter.
Wow, that was quick.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Why, Joe? Why peanut butter and jelly?
I grew up with it. It's
Mm,
what it was.
yeah, fascinating. And the pastime sport is baseball, but everybody seems to gravitate to Sunday night football. Which one is it for you?
I way prefer to play baseball,
Hmm.
but I prefer to watch football.
Joe, you sound like you want to have your cake and eat it too.
That might be it. That might be it.
Great, wonderful. So we just have a few minutes left, and I'm just going to give you this time to share your handles with people. Tell them about your expertise, your professional work, where they can find you if they need your services and stuff, how they can contact you. All right, you go
Yeah.
ahead.
So on the professional world, we built or not we built the email 412homes@gmail.com. So if anyone wants to reach out to us for that, um, that's our primary way for professional, any advice about real estate or anything of that nature. The primary goal that I'm trying to get people to go to is to check out our podcast. It's called Father and Joe. 3 simple words, Father and Joe. You can find it on any audio podcast platform. We really do know that it makes a difference. It is primarily focused upon living those virtues I spoke about earlier and how to implement them. Most people get this thought of, we're going to talk about Jesus, and then this pit inside of us, like, that we don't want to share with anyone, tells us no and not to do it. And we don't address it in a way where we're trying to attack you for being bad or being wrong, because we recognize that everyone has mistakes. Everyone has things they wish they would have done differently in the past. And we recognize that. And we try to look at ways we can be better in the future, things that we can implement in our own lives. As I mentioned before, just looking at an example of justice, hiring the right person because they are the right person is beneficial for everyone involved. Whereas if you hire someone because of an arbitrary mean, you discourage the person who actually deserved it, and you create a false narrative that that's what happens. So we discuss all kinds of different elements. That's just one of them. We've discussed things that go on around the world. Like, for example, Putin just invaded this country. How should we feel about it? Obviously, he's killing life. Like, how would it be if he wasn't there? We've discussed how vaccines work, how they're made, and the ethical feelings that we should have about a vaccine that's made from aborted stem cells. We've discussed personal elements of how should we feel moving forward, how should we feel about ourselves. And then some of the more popular ones being that people can mentally grasp the concept of God, but for some reason there's a difficulty to feel him within our hearts. So those are kind of some of the big topics that we discuss, and we certainly do invite everyone to come download us. We're every Tuesday. It's called Father and Joe. And again, we're on all the major platforms.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing, Joe. That was really awesome, inspiring. I'm going to read something for you. I'm going to ask you the closing question.
Mhm.
It says, following graduation, I worked for 3 years as a personal financial advisor. In the first year, I was the office's Rookie of the Year. In the second year, I was the underclassman of the year. And the third year, I left to create my first real estate business in 2011.
Mhm.
You seem to be a man of milestones. What is the next big milestone you seek to accomplish in your life, Joe?
Well, I would love it to get to 1 million listens, as far as the podcast. That would be something that would be very great. I would like to get my third patent. That I have 2, but I would like to get the third one.
Okay.
And I think those are probably the next big ones that we'd like to get to.
Wonderful. This has been an amazing episode. The technical interruption, but we've had Rockey live in the breakout room and his personal development. He's been an amazing guest, sharing a lot of personal stuff and, of course, professional information about the real estate industry, something that is really important compared to a whole lot of people as we seek to create the opportunity to own homes and properties for ourselves. Until next time, this is Andy and our guest Joe Rockey saying, so long, Godspeed, Shalom, Namaste. Remember, the 3 watchwords: health, happiness, and prosperity. Stay safe out there, people. See you soon. Bye.